Okay, we'll call this January 13th, 2022 regular meeting of Borough Council to order. Normally, I would be providing the moment of silence tonight as the mayor, but I'm going to defer to my new colleague, Councilor Perry.
Well, hello, everybody. I think I want to say I didn't speak at the biennial meeting last week, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you for everyone who's been so receptive to me and reached out to me and congratulated me about my seat. This is historical, and it is something very new for me. And, in speaking with that, with Martin Luther King Day coming on Monday, I think that it's important to really say that, I think that if Martin were here, this would be something that he's pleased about, to see me sitting here, to see that Tim was the previous mayor, and that we've come that far. We still have a long way to go, though, and I don't want people to forget that either. We're still fighting for our rights as we have back then. So I do think that this is a good time for us just to take a few moments for a moment of just silence. So everybody just take a few moments. Thank you.
Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, the roll, please.
Mr. Cramsey.
Here.
Mr. Hicks.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Landis.
Here.
Ms. Perry.
Here.
Mayor Shultz.
Here.
And Mr. Stubbe.
Here.
Okay, and that reminds me, what we will need this evening for Councilors Cramsey and Stubbe is a motion to permit them both to attend by telecommunication device. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hicks. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Welcome via Zoom, guys. Next is the opportunity for citizens and visitors to be heard. This is an opportunity on any issue of related to borough government for those either attending in person, not too many here tonight, or via Zoom to provide comment. Is there anyone who wishes to step forward tonight? Is there anyone via Zoom? Okay. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. This is a list of routine items which do not appear to be controversial in nature and which probably do not require additional discussion. They can be acted on by one motion in their current form. If discussion is desired on any particular item, any member of council or the public may request the item to be removed from the consent agenda, and that item will be considered separately. Is there a request to have any item removed tonight? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve.
It's a motion to approve by the Deputy Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Hicks. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The consent agenda is passed. So we move on to page 3 of the agenda. Everything prior to that has been approved. There are no table continued or recurring items. Move on to reports from elected officials. There's nothing listed under the mayor's report, but I'm going to add something based on an exchange I've had with a friend. I'll say a friend of Borough Council who brought forth previously the efforts to memorialize the genocide in Bosnia during the war back in the 90s. Our friend Badrudin He has contacted me about a brewing constitutional crisis in Bosnia, and very recently there was neo-Nazi graffiti in Prijedor that was a site of some of the genocide that occurred back in the 90s. So I'm gonna read briefly from something he passed along to me, and then make a request. Not that you need to act on it tonight, but a request of council. So I'm not going to go back through. I think we're all quite aware of the atrocities that occurred in Bosnia during the war from 1992 to 1995. That was eventually settled by peace agreement, and part of that peace agreement, from that came Bosnia's new constitution. The article that I have in front of me, the letter that I have in front of me, called "Meaningful and Comprehensive Constitutional Reform: The Way Forward in Bosnia," describes, while the peace agreement successfully ended the war, the new constitution created a complex framework of governance that protects the rights of constituent ethnic groups instead of its citizens. This has resulted in numerous undemocratic and discriminatory outcomes, including that no member of any minority ethnic group, whether Jewish, Roma, Albanian, Montenegrin, or otherwise, can ever hold political office at the state or entity level or get elected to the House of People. Ironically, even citizens who declare themselves as Bosnians cannot run for office in any of the above-mentioned levels of government. Only members of constituent people, namely Bosniaks, Serbs, or Croats, can be elected to those offices in government. And the letter goes on to detail more, but the point that it eventually makes is a number of Bosnian non-governmental organizations that include representatives from Bosnia's various ethnic groups, including Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs, those very same people who are empowered by the current constitution, have adopted 6 guiding principles that should form the foundation for any meaningful and comprehensive constitutional reform process in Bosnia. Among them, the president of the Jewish community in Bosnia expressed his open support on behalf of the Jewish community in Bosnia for these guiding principles. And these 6 principles are based on the following ideals: the elimination of systemic and systematic discrimination in the political and electoral system. The judgments of the European courts oblige the state to remove existing widespread discrimination. That's 1. 2, the cessation of entity-based voting and elimination of ethnic veto provisions, as per findings and recommendations by the Venice Commission. 3, reform of the judicial system to ensure independent courts based on the rule of law, who operate with the same principles rather than separate systems which often reach conflicting rulings. 4, sanction the denial, trivialization, justification, or condemnation of the Holocaust, genocide, and crimes against humanity. 5, define the rights considered to be of vital national interest and that would be protected by the national veto at the state and lower levels of government. And then finally, 6, the dismantling of the various layers of government, which leads to the weakening of state-level governmental institutions and create political and legislative gridlock. What I plan to do, whether council chooses to join me or not, is with draft a letter that frames this in a Carlisle-oriented way and send it on to our senators, Casey and Toomey, and Representative Perry. Representative Perry sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House, and ask Senators Toomey and Casey to put a good word in to the chairman and ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, framing this in that Carlisle-oriented way, because we have, as you know, many residents in the borough and around the borough who are of Bosniak descent, and Serbs and Croats who have families that are still over there and affected by this. As I said, I'm not asking you to commit to that tonight, but just to know that I will circulate a letter and give you that opportunity to sign on should you wish. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate the work that you would put in on that. And also, Vadruden has noted previously when he has spoken that they initially came to Harrisburg. So although this was a Carlisle letter advocating, to note that it is a regional, issue as well. They're not all, they didn't all find homes directly in the borough here. So making sure that that's in there so that our representatives that cover a wider area are aware of how far that our region has benefited from having those folks choose to make this their home.
Great. Duly noted. Okay. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to reports from committees. So this is an oddball. We don't usually have HARB report on our regular agenda. It's usually on our consent agenda. We only have it here tonight because there was a at least partial denial. Is the applicant on that HARB application here with us tonight, sir? Sure. Yeah. If you want to come up and give us your name, your address. You understand let me just make sure you understand the process here before you jump in and make your case. HARB made a recommendation. You can present why we should differ from that recommendation, and council would have that final word on that. Before you jump into it, I'll tell you, I looked at it independently, and I think you have a fair case to be made that we ought to alter that decision. But I'll allow you to present your perspective. So go ahead, sir.
Okay. Actually, I do have here a neighbor of mine. They do have a vinyl siding in the back of the house, and I don't know this is how it's been in there, but I understand for my property, the back side of the house, it has the siding 2017, and I just make the house looks better to the other end from the side of the house, and it's basically it's far away from the back of the house, the alleyway. You cannot see the difference between the wood siding and the vinyl siding, and I didn't know that's I have to apply for a permit before I do the siding. So right now I have a neighbor, they do have the same thing, so I would like to ask for a waiver. So
okay, sure.
Basically, especially when they asking me for front of the street, facing the house, it was a siding also, and it was visible from the Pomfret Street, from the main road, and they asking me to take it down, and I did, and that's what I'm at right now. So.
Okay, and I asked you to give your name and address, and then I went on that long
yeah,
preamble. But
yes,
yeah.
yes, the address is the property address I'm represent. It's 40 East Pomfret Street in Carlisle.
And your name?
My name is Mohammed Al-Bomi.
Okay, thank you, sir. So let me sort of frame that a bit for you. What you just mentioned. We have a denial of the vinyl siding on the rear and rear west side of the building, and then we have a second denial of the top trim pieces over the front west side windows and doors. So I'm gonna sort of clarify a couple things on those, and I'll walk you through that. The vinyl siding on the rear and the rear west side of the building, under the HARB guidelines, HARB has jurisdiction over basically what can be seen from the street. But there is specifically in HARB guideline number 6 that aluminum or vinyl siding over wooden buildings is permitted, but only on the rear of the building. This is a wooden building, correct?
Yes.
So that would apply. So the rear siding would be appropriate. The rear west side of the building, I understand, is not visible or is barely visible at all from the street. Is that accurate?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And Jared, I know you took a look at that you're in agreement with that. We're bringing pictures up.
Yep.
Okay. And then the top trim piece, I know it sort of evolved over time in my
Yeah, actually, the day we had the meeting, Jared asking me to just get it done as soon as possible. So I got it done the same day, and I did send him some picture. It looks similar to the existing one, but it's not like identical. But it's actually the Harp, they are okay with it so far. The only thing we are discussing today is the vinyl siding.
Right. Once that switch was made on the trim, it was appropriate.
Yeah, this is done. Yeah, has been worked on. Yeah.
Okay. I think Mr. Wilson wants to make a
I did want to clarify one thing for the record. I asked Mohammed to apply to revise the trim. I didn't ask him to do the work. So I did want to clarify that for the record.
Okay. But the work's been done. The trim's been replaced at this point, and I think that's on maybe page 23 of what was sent on to council.
Okay, and also I took some picture from my property facing the neighbor next to me. He has back siding of the house, and the garage has siding too as well.
Mm.
But for the same property, it's 50 East Pomfret Street.
Okay.
And I got some picture for you guys to share.
Sure. If you want to pass it up, I think we're more concerned just really about how the guidelines apply to your property. But we can take a
different viewing.
Okay. Let me just pass this around. There you go. For the extras. Is this the third?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Does any member of council have, and I'm sorry, Councilors Crampsey and Stubbe don't have the benefit of the photos of the neighbor's property. And as I said, I'm not sure that's terribly relevant because I think we can make a decision based on your property itself. But do any members of council have any questions for Mr. Albami? No. Mr. Stubbe or Crampsey? No. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Then I'm going to make a motion that council approve the certificates of appropriateness under item A. I'll just read through them. The after effect exterior conditions at 40 East Pomfret Street, including the vinyl siding on the rear and rear west side of the building, the top trim pieces over the front west side windows and door, and then also approve the balance of Harp's approval as listed under the agenda. That's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Perry. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. So you have an approval for the siding as it is on the rear and the rear west, and for the trim.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So they'll issue the certificate based on that. I don't know the timeline on that, Jared. You'd have to. I don't know if you know the timeline on that, but in the coming days. Okay.
So I'm good for now.
You're good to go.
If you just have any other requests, just make sure you go through them.
Yeah, that's we don't. Yeah.
It's my first house, so I know.
Okay. Yeah. Fair point. We like when the requests come in before the work is done. So. Okay. All right. You're welcome. Okay. We'll move on to the Sustainability and Community Planning Committee. Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 items tonight. First item, I move the Borough Council consider approving the Carlisle Borough Climate Action Plan to address climate change at the local level.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
That's second.
We're all trying to remember which committee we're on. That's all right.
And
I
would like to comment just to edify council. We have a second. Okay, thank you.
Second by
just to both edify council and the public in general. So we've had the climate action plan available as a single package for 31 days, I believe, on the Engage site. We've made several active outreach to get community input. We haven't received a lot of public comment, but I would urge council to consider that this plan has been in development for 18 months and has had over 50 people of the community putting it together. I think that explains a lot of those who had a real stake in it have physically contributed to the plan, and I would not have expected a lot of people who were invested in the plan at this depth to have too many comments, which is the point. A second point is, as those who have read it, this plan is really setting up goals and objectives, and for those who are committed to reducing and our greenhouse gas emissions and reaching our objectives, I would suggest there isn't a lot of debate amongst these goals, and where there was, that was actually debated among the committees and the task forces. And I think as we move forward, I would expect a lot more comments and debate as we start to implement and develop alternatives to actually implement these goals. And so I would ask you not to maybe be too concerned about voting for this for the lack of public comment we've had in the 30 days that we've had it up on the site. So I'll just also say, I'd like to recognize the many hard workers, one of which is here, the chair of our community engagement team, Mitch Giles. Thank you for being here. He's one of, again, over 50 folks who in our community who put this together. And, I will say, upon approval, it's really now incumbent on us on council to identify the roles and responsibilities. I think we all are aware of that, and that's going to allow us to then develop an implementation strategy and plan. And these plans are going to be multi-year, and they're going to involve not just borough staff, they're going to involve leaders in our community, of which it's our responsibility to do the best we can to manage that. So it's going to be a multi-year, I would say multi-decade evolution involving budget changes, ordinance changes, land use changes, grant writing, measuring and monitoring, and developing policies, creative policies that direct the economic benefits that come with changing to different energy sources. And I look forward to continuing to work with borough staff and my fellow councilors to really think deeply about who we asked to lead these efforts. And we're in that process. We have a climate action commission that is postured to I would say, take on whatever responsibilities council deems is appropriate for them. We're in hot standby, but we're not going to stay in hot standby for too long. So I hope in the next couple months we can have very specific roles and responsibilities laid out. And I look forward to working with mayor and deputy mayor to get some options to share with council. So those are all my comments.
Any other comments? Looks like not. I'll make a comment that I made I think at the last Climate Action Commission meeting. Again, it's just a thank you to the volunteers on the commission, but especially to Councilor Hicks, who I know through this. Often when you're dealing with volunteers, it's like herding cats. But I think you had some excellent volunteers who made that job easier, but you still carried this on your back to a large extent, and we appreciate it. And I think generations of residents in this borough will appreciate the work that you've done over this past year. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can indulge you to consider a roll call vote for this?
So sure, we can call the roll. Madam Secretary, there has been a motion and a second. Could you please call the roll on this?
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Hicks?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Landis?
Aye.
Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Stubbe?
Aye.
And Mayor Schultz?
Aye. The motion has passed unanimously. And I always see the lack of public comment as, I assume that's because we're doing things right. So thank you. Go on with your report.
Yeah, and my last item, thank you, Mr. Mayor, is a move that Borough Council approve an agreement with Carlisle to provide temporary zoning support services.
There is a motion to approve an agreement with Carlisle to provide temporary zoning support services. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion is passed. That concludes your report. Okay, we'll move on to Budget and Finance. Councilor Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few items this evening, and the first item under C1 I'll do in two separate motions. First, I move that council approve a total care support contract with Hinton and Associates for information technology network support for a 1-year period effective January 1st, 2022, subject to the Borough Solicitor's satisfactory review and approval.
So motion to approve the contract with Hinton and Associates. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion is passed.
Next, I move that Borough Council approve a master solutions agreement with Hinton and Associates, subject to the Borough Solicitor's satisfactory review and approval.
There's a motion to approve the master solutions agreement with Hinton and Associates. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion passes.
Next, I move that Borough Council approve the distribution of funds as part of the 2022 budget to outside agencies as listed under item C2 of this evening's agenda.
There's a motion to approve the disbursement of funds under the outside agencies budget. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion passes.
Next, I move that Borough Council retroactively approve the purchase of Borough trash bags from the vendor Plastic Place in the total amount of $23,100.
It's a motion for the purchase of Borough trash bags. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes.
And finally, I move that Borough Council approve entering into a 1-year contract for camera maintenance and support, subject to the Borough Solicitor's satisfactory review of the terms and conditions outlined in said contract with Intelsite LLC.
I'm afraid to say the word myself now. There's a motion to approve the contract with Intelsite LLC. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Stubbe. We'll move on to economic development. Mr. Crampsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one item tonight. I'll make a motion that Borough Council may reaffirm a letter of support for the Shippensburg University Small Business Development Center in collaboration with Shippensburg University on the local innovation grant application for SCPA Works for the creation of the Small Business Internship Initiative.
There is a motion to reaffirm the letter of support for the Shippensburg University Small Business Development Center. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. That ends my report.
On to ERCP, Deputy Mayor Landis.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. I have two items tonight. I make the motion that Borough Council reappoint Mr. Edward Hazel to a first full term on the Borough's Sewer System Authority. The term shall become effective immediately and expire on December 31st, 2026.
There is a motion to reappoint Mr. Edward Hazel, and the second is from me. I'll second that motion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the motion passes.
And my second item is I make the motion that Borough Council consider appointing Maddie Young to a partial term as an alternate on the Human Relations Commission. The term will become effective immediately and will expire on February 29th, 2024.
There's a motion to appoint Maddie Young to partial term on the Human Relations Commission. I will second that motion. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes.
And that completes my report.
And you can just keep rolling with Parks and Rec.
That's correct. All right, you're right. So I have just one item for today. I make the motion that Borough Council authorize Mayor Shultz as a signatory for a grant agreement in the amount of $30,000 received for the Fairground Avenue Linear Park under the Cumberland County Land Partnerships Grant Program.
There is a motion to authorize me to sign the agreement for the Fairground Avenue Linear Park under the Cumberland County Land Partnerships Grant Program. I will second that motion. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. Move on to the Public Safety Committee. I move that Borough Council adopt an ordinance amending the code of the Borough of Carlisle adopted by Ordinance 2032 and thereafter amended with respect to Chapter 244 Vehicles and Traffic to add one on-street handicap parking space at 151 East Lowther Street and remove one on-street handicap parking space at 163 Northwest Street. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I'll call the question. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Gramsci?
Aye.
Mr. Hicks?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Landis?
Aye.
Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Stubbe?
Aye.
And Mayor Schultz.
Aye. I next move the council approve the use of Carlisle Special Fire Police and Carlisle Special Fire Police and Special Fire Police from other municipalities to work at non-fire related borough events, functions, or parades. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second to call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. Finally, I move that council approve the special event request by the Downtown Carlisle Association to utilize 3 parking meters at the corner of South Hanover and West Church Avenue and lift the sidewalk ordinance for purposes of holding the annual Ice Arts Fest, scheduled for February 4th through February 6th, 2022. Approval is subject to receipt of a valid certificate of liability insurance form naming the Borough of Carlisle as an additional insured. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. We'll move on to the Public Works Committee. Council Perry.
I make a motion to approve the purchase of an American Road Machinery Company chassis mounted vacuum leaf collection truck from U.S. Municipal of King of Prussia, PA, for $472.72. Oh, I messed that all up. Through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Cooperative Purchasing Program, CoStars program.
There is a motion to approve the purchase of an American Road Machinery Company chassis mounted vacuum leaf collection truck for the amount indicated on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
There we go. Jeff picked it up. Second by Councilor Stubbe. Call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. And I know I've heard many people who are pretty excited about this, and they can't wait for. I've gotten the joke that this really sucks. And, so, go on, Councilor Perry.
I make a motion for the council to enter into engineering services contract with Herbert, Rowland, and Grubik Incorporated, HRG, to assist the borough with its 2022 sewer system rehabilitation program in the total amount of $331,800, subject to the borough solicitor's review and approval.
There's a motion to enter into engineering services contract with HRG. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion is second. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. That concludes your report. Okay. Move on to new business. This is another opportunity. You get 2 bites at the apple. Are there any members of the public who wish to address council on any matter relating to borough government? No one here in Borough Hall. No one via Zoom. So move on to reports from council members and staff. We'll start on Zoom this time. Councilor Crampsey, any reports?
Thank you, Mayor Shultz. I'll just be brief tonight. First, thank you again to council for allowing us to appear virtually and for keeping health and safety first and foremost for everyone at Borough Hall and for us on council. I will say one of the benefits of doing this via Zoom is Jeff and I get to see the great work that staff does with this virtual presentation. It's cool to see you all have your names pop up and some fancy graphics. So it really is a great product. And I hope our residents who watch it on Facebook Live or who join the Zoom appreciate the work and the efforts that go into it because it really is well done. I think we're, again, in Carlisle, because of our great staff leading the way and a great example of what other local communities could do. And then I'll end tonight just wishing Mark and staff good luck with this upcoming snowstorm and remind our residents to be patient and be polite. It's never easy when we get hit with snowstorms, but I think everyone does their best to get through it. So please look out for each other, take care of each other. And if you see our staff out there, be sure to thank them because they always do a great job with such events. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Crampsey. Councilor Stubbe.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Perry.
I have nothing here.
Deputy Mayor.
I just have one thing to remind the community of, and that's we will be having an additional meeting this month on the 27th. Yes, for the open seat. And I don't know if we have applicants so far, but that is still open. Is that correct? Yes.
It is.
So I think, what time is that meeting? 6?
I don't remember. 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on the 27th. So you can tune in and see the process, which doesn't happen very often. So that's everything.
And the application details are on the Borough website, and they've been, I think they've been reported on by at least the Sentinel. Councilor Hicks.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you, Mayor Schultz.
I'll just note that I had the pleasure of attending the opening, the ribbon cutting of 113 Social today. Unfortunately, because of COVID, scaled down significantly, but it's a lovely place. The atmosphere looks fantastic, and it's going to be a great addition to the borough. Also remind folks that the Martin Luther King Commemoration Committee has a number of events this weekend. I would go to their go to Facebook, go to their Facebook page for details. And they have a keynote speaker, Drew Hart, who's written a couple of books. Fantastic author. I'm sure he's going to be a great keynote speaker Sunday evening. And they also have other events. And I think we'll be doing it via Facebook on Monday with some speeches from a number of folks, including me and Sonia Brown, who we know pretty well here at the borough also. So everybody should check that out. Manager Armstrong, do you have any reports from staff? Okay. Well, thank you. Well, with that, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.